Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today you are seeing my mom's art studio. I've been traveling with my parents to arts and crafts fairs and just got back pretty close into town and wanted to go ahead and record this. So yay, that yummy blue color is so nice. Anyway, Lauren requested a little more information about my mood tracker mandala. This is an idea that I stumbled across in the Bullet Journal Junkies Facebook group. I was not familiar with the idea, but apparently it's a cool thing that's done these days where folks keep up with the temperatures for a year in marriage, a year in the life of their child, and crochet a certain number of rows per day that correspond to, so that the color corresponds to the temperature of the day. In the Bullet Journal Junkies Facebook community, someone had moved that from a blanket to a mandala in their journal I think it was a monthly and not a weekly. Or, I mean, certainly not a weekly. I think it was a monthly and not a yearly mandala for that. And in the comments, someone just mentioned in passing that they thought it could work really well for mood tracking. I had been considering some way to deal with mood and emotion tracking. A lot of the options I had seen were very number-based, where you needed to kind of rank how happy or how sad or how angry or how whatever you were feeling on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. And where I am in my own life right now, I didn't feel like I could do that well and helpfully. So I really liked the idea of a mood mandala for that reason. Mandalas are most widely used as a religious tool. You know, if you go Google it now, Wikipedia and Google will tell you that, especially in Indian culture, it's a picture of the world. It's meant to represent everything from all the way up in the heavens and the gods and supernatural powers to like the dirt. It's supposed to encapsulate it all. Mandalas are often used also in meditation and calming and helping you focus and come to understand something. That can be really intentional with words included in it, or it could just be the shape of the mandala itself. When I first got married, I moved across the country from my family and all my friends, and I used mandalas a lot whenever I was feeling anxious or when I was having a conversation that I was having a hard time focusing on. I would just take a little, let me see if I can grab a piece of paper, like a scrap of paper, and then fold down a corner of it like that, and tear right here so it made a rough square, and then I would fold again so that I could mark the center, and I probably made 50 mandalas that way, and they were all little and quick, but it really helped me come to like focus and grasp that. So that's a little background around mandalas. They are really fun to color or draw, even if you're not using it as a sort of spiritual practice. Just a lot like the coloring, it just can kind of help promote mindfulness. There are some fun free printables. Kara over at Bohoberry has printables. You probably, if you're in the bullet journaling community and have seen her work, have seen mandalas in Kara's, and I think even on her bullet journal. Anyway, so that's a little background about mandalas, and then I'll take you into what I did for my first month, which was September, of using a mood tracker mandala, and what I'm doing so far for October. So I hope that you find some part of this helpful and maybe encouraging. If you have ways you adapt it, or other mood or emotion trackers you like, I would love to see them. Or if you have further questions, please just let me know. So without further ado, I'm going to take you down to actually look at the notebook. So one more thing before I dive into my actual Leuchturm with my mood mandalas. I realized when I was trying to go back and find YouTube videos that explained more of mandalas that there was one key element that most videos aren't explicit about. In the section below, I'll link to Kara from Boho Berry's mandala tutorial, which is of course lovely, like all of her work. But there's just one part I wanted to show you. So here I didn't want to take the time to draw out my kind of base, since I just wanted to make this one main point for y'all. But this is a polar graph, and you can get these as free downloads from multiple different websites. I generally suggest using waterproofpaper.com, but lately I've had trouble and haven't been able to print from theirs. It's requiring a password. So this is from Incompetech. They have awesome graph paper capabilities. You can try dot grids, you can try asymmetric dots, polar, on and on and on. I highly suggest their tool. So I've just printed this off. This is similar to what you would sketch out in pencil if you were doing a standard mandala. And so for those of you who like a little more structure, you could even get one of these off of the Incompetech setup so that it has 30 or 31 layers to the circle, and just have yourself set that you fill each layer each day. All that aside, the main thing I wanted to point out about mandalas is that they should be repetitive in a specific way. And that way is that it should be a mirror image. So for instance, I'm going to do a flower here, flower petal here, and there should be another one here. Ideally, you will at least do it in quarters like this, so that there's 4. I probably should have rotated the paper to get that more even. But plenty of folks will also just kind of assume that everything will be in 8s. So because I printed this paper, my lines don't line up perfectly. But as you can see, you know, if I folded it in half here, it would look just the same on the other side. And you want to do that in every aspect of your mandala, and that is what gives it the sort of contemplative, mesmerizing feel, is being able to watch it grow outwards. Sorry, it's a wobbly line. I'm doing this one-handed. As you're working on it. So you can see here, I'm just going to go through and do a little petal at all of my segments. You want to keep your layers as close to the same as possible. As you'll see when I show you my mood mandalas, I'm not, for my mood and habit tracker, I'm not trying to make it perfect. I just want a general sort of wobbly feel, kind of like this. That one's taller than that one. They're not all necessarily the same width, but yeah, I think that's just a really helpful aspect when you're starting out mandalas that a lot of videos don't explicitly say. It's just that you want it to be a reflection. So if you fold your paper in half in any direction, so if I folded it here, or I fold it here in half, or I fold it here in half, my mandala will make a mirror image of itself. It'll fold back on top. So I hope that makes a little sense, and with the other videos that I will share in the description below, gives you some confidence in starting a mandala. I think that there is no reason to be afraid about this. Even just the repetition itself will, if your lines are wobbly or you're afraid you do something too big or something like that, the actual act of repetition starts to make it look beautiful just on its own. So that's that's all I have to add, I think, to the other videos I'm going to link, but this is just a pretty crucial piece of information in understanding mandalas. So on that note, let me go ahead and show you my mood and emotion mandalas for September and so far in October. Okay, so now that I've explained mandalas a little, I'm going to take a closer look at my September mood mandala. This is the first time that I tried using a mood mandala to track my mood throughout the month. Because I'm only on my second one now, so we'll see. So I'm going to move it down a little. You can see some things I learned. I set a color per mood. And after I set it, I realized that I needed tired included in there, so I kind of added that in. As the month went on a little, I realized that these were not enough like variations for me. Happy, content, excited, blank / tired, sad, angry, and anxious didn't always get what I needed to track. So in October, I've added a few more like annoyed because, you know, maybe I'm not content or happy or blank, and it's not angry, it's something else. It's just a morning when you're grumpy about everything, that type thing. So that's what I did first, was I selected colors for me that would represent different moods and emotions so I could kind of keep track of them. Then I went through and marked off a square portion of my Leuchturm to hit the center of so that I could come out relatively easily. In the past, for some of my personal mandalas, I've, carefully measured each layer and whatnot, but for this, I wanted it to just reflect my mood for the moment. I didn't need it to be perfect. I just need to be able to look back and see patterns in my emotions and moods and what I've been feeling and maybe what I haven't been feeling. So let's just start through with where I started. I started with a black dot in this one, and then because this was my first time, I didn't actually decide exactly how much I would draw per day. So what I went through on this first day was actually just included all the emotions I felt that first day. Everything from blank and angry to excited and content. All of those were wrapped up in there, and so I put them all out. And then I'm going to try to take you in a little closer so maybe you can see some of this variation. Let me see if I can get that a little clearer for you. There you go. It's kind of hard to tell. This was actually a black pen. I was originally thinking I would draw a black circle between each day so that I could see it as it moved outwards. But that just wasn't working for me. So what I tried to do whenever I would do a larger section like this would be to fill it with other emotions or moods going on in that day. Some of these things can be kind of deceptive. Like the first time I did this big anxious one, I was anxious that day, but because I filled it in this way, it looks like all the anxiety. So I kind of learned my lesson for the purple level. It was happiness and also just being really tired too. So the happy is on the outside, and then the tired lines in gray. I think a lot of this could be moved for each person on their own level. As you can kind of tell from that, like this day I did one level and included the fill in, but on this day I did all of that and a circle around it. So for this first month, I wasn't super consistent in how much I did per day. So that it's a scientific tracker, it's not super accurate. For me, it helps because I don't have to graph it or chart like how anxious am I today, or how sad, or how happy, or how content. I'm sure at some point in my mental health that could be helpful, but for right now, I just need to see which emotions, which moods I've gone through, and what's going on with that. So I'll flip ahead a little. Oh, I should have marked my page. Sorry, y'all. To what I've started for October. You can see we're not very far into October. And actually for some days I've been going back in and doing, like I did this yesterday, so I might actually do today's inside. I'm trying to keep it more contained, but this is 11 days worth of moods and emotions right here for me at this time. Again, it's not really scientific, but this is what it's looking like so far.